Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's ODTN use case steering call. It's been first one after 2 weeks of pause. I've been on personal time off, and thanks for joining. Very happy that all of you guys are here. We have some pretty good updates, I think. The session is going to be recorded and uploaded on YouTube as usual. So the first one is that we did some updates in the past few days on the past few weeks on ODTN through some testing that we're doing through the Cassini box and some other deployments. So the first thing is that we augmented the ONOS with the capability to do modulation configuration based on OpenConfig models through the drivers. So what this is based on the patch from Sterlite, which was uploaded, that provided the behavior for the modulation, provided the scheme enumeration, provided the few fixes, and also a web resource to do it. On top of that, I added personally a modulation command that allows you to change the modulation of a device through its driver. And I also added two implementation, because the Sterlite's implementation is based on the proposed extension to the OpenConfig models to allow a standard string-based, enumeration-based in Yang, defined in Yang for the QPS, for the modulation type. Although the current OpenConfig model, which we are working with a few people, among which is IPI and the Cassini team, does not include that extension. So what we did was we added we are using the current models in this modulation. I moved the extended one to the modulation OpenConfig, and the normal modulation one is the one that uses the vendor extension and passes down a vendor-defined string to the modulation itself. Then out of this, we also added it to the UI, and I'll let Sean speak about it a little bit more later. So now we have the capability to do configuration of the modulation through both REST API, CLI, and UI through OpenConfig. It should be the standard payload. This is just called Cassini OpenConfig modulation because I've only been tested it on the Cassini device. But if somebody has a modulation interface that I can use to test against through OpenConfig on their device, I'll be happy to test it against that. As part of this effort, we also added and fixed a few power issues, especially in the power configuration command, allowing not only to show the current configured target output power, but also the current input power and current output power based on the driver that the power config driver. That also needed a small change in the Cassini driver behavior, and also a very important change that I made due to this is that I moved the power values to a double. Before the power value in ONOS, in the whole ONOS code base, was a long, meaning that you had to go for increments of 1, meaning you could go for 4 dBs or 5 dBs, but not something in the middle. Since this is clearly a use case, we moved all the implementation to a double, meaning that now you can do in increments of point whatever you want. This is a big patch. It goes against retrocompatibility, but I think it's fine for now. This is, by the way, everything I'm talking about is part of the 2.2 release of ONOS, which is good. And then out of this, we added a few things to the ONOS UI, but I'll let Sean comment on those.
Thanks, Andrea. Can you hear me okay?
Perfectly fine, thanks.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, I got involved extending the work that Andrea had done, that he had started, and really this update that we're looking at here is built on top of the port, the ROADM port tabular view in the GUI, and basically at IPI's request, I made a few changes there. I don't know if do we have a picture of the GUI itself, Andrea, on the wiki? You showed one yesterday on
I
GitHub for
think I did,
ODTN
but
emulator.
I don't think it's updated. Let me get that.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, exactly right. So yeah, so I think for instance, a couple of things I changed. So the min frequency, I think, was and the max frequency are in terahertz. I just changed the title of this. Also, I changed the headings so that the letter Z would appear in lowercase, and also with the dBm, it's lowercase d and lowercase m on any of those power figures. Also, I changed the no, this one, the current power. I changed this to be two digits, to two decimal places, because there were values getting in there that were like 6 or 8 decimal places long. And so I rounded those to two decimal places. And also for the target power, that's also rounded to two decimal places. And I think I put in an extra column there as well, the current input power, which corresponds to what was available on the CLI. So, it's just a way of visualizing it. And so, as you can see here, what Andrea had put in was the submit button. You can edit the modulation from a drop-down set. I think there are two values, and you can submit, which will send it straight down to the device. And the next time the screen refreshes, you'll see that updated value. And the target power is a numerical value, and it's got like up and down arrows on it, or you can type the value in as well for any one of those ports. So that was, I think that was everything, Andrea. That was what was in that patch.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Yes, that's all. And unfortunately, we did not have the time to update the screenshot of it, but I plan to do that fairly soon. We also all of this stuff will be showcased at ONF Connect, which is good because we will have the latest updated version of the Cassini ONOS implementation, and we will show these things through the UI. And it's still underneath in the implementation. This is still called ROADM because we did not change the name inside it, but it can now really show the values of every optical device. As you can see here, it's not just limited to the ROADMs themselves, which is good. So we're going to use this for the demo. There's a few announcements that we need to make, and I'll talk about those later. But this gives you an overview of the announcements that we did. So just to summarize it, we incremented this GUI. We added capabilities for modulation with changes in the modulation driver and capability to add, remove, modulate, to change modulation in REST, GUI, and CLI, and an update on the REST power on the power CLI. So that's that. This is all being tested, and it's a great addition. If you guys would like to implement it on your own transponder or test it out yourself, to implement it on your own transponder, again, it's a behavior implementation. It's modulation config, power config, whatever that is that you need. You just implement it, or you can actually try and use the ones we have. If you have a standard OpenConfig interface, that should work right out of the box, because the Cassini ones are based on the pure OpenConfig, so which is good.
Andrea,
yes,
I have a question.
Sure.
Maybe I missed part of the explanation, but I mean, this table is great. It's actually a lot of useful information that I was not considering that it was available through the OpenConfig standard. This is based on the modifications that you have proposed, or based on standard models?
No. So the current behavior that we have is working with the standard models that is up there. As I said before, for the modulation, the path is the one that is up there. Unfortunately, OpenConfig does not define an enumeration. So at the moment, we just pass down whatever ONOS expects, which is a specific string if you go into the driver, because there is really no standard in how that string is formatted. It can be dp underscore QPSK, dp dash QPSK, or whatever. But the rest of it is all pure OpenConfig standard. There is a driver which shows this based on the proposed extensions that we have to add that enumeration. So there are in the ONOS master both versions. The one that uses the vendor-defined schema for the QPSK, GLOM, whatever. So it's a vendor-defined string that has to be agreed upon. The other one as the enumeration that we are proposing.
I mean, that's great, but I was not aware that you had in OpenConfig already the minimum frequency that you can tune and the grid information, for instance, neither the power range. So this is something that I was not, I mean, last time I checked, the specification was not there, but I mean, if it is already now this information available, this is something really great.
So you bring out a very good point, Arturo. The minimum and maximum frequencies, those are not derived through OpenConfig. The modulation, the power, both target, current input, and current output are. The type of ports and everything else are. The current power is. The minimum and maximum frequency is not, because it's simply not there in OpenConfig. What we do there is that it's a known value that does not really change, so we basically hard code it in the driver.
Okay, yeah, that's exactly what we are doing. I mean, also the power range is something that is information that is considered in OpenConfig like capability information. So this is something that it does not change. And what they assume is that you have this information in advance through, I don't know, like datasheet information of the product or whatever, and then you can encode this standard. Okay, this was my main doubt. Thank you.
Yes, but the
sorry. So Andrea, just for my understanding, so for the modulation format configuration, did you do any extension to the OpenConfig models?
So as I was saying before, there are two versions of the driver. One that uses an extended version of the OpenConfig models that we are proposing, and you can see it. Let me find it. Just give me 1 second.
So
just give me 1 second.
Yeah. In a terminal device, right?
Yes. So Puneet can explain better, but in their patch there is an extension that they are proposing to add modulation with a modulation format. That modulation format is an enumeration that is used and is agreed upon, meaning that I can have a standard driver because I don't have to specify a random string that for Nokia can be whatever you guys want, and for IPI can be whatever they want, and for Juniper can be whatever they want. So this is the proposal that we are making to the OpenConfig people. Although since
so Andrea,
Please go ahead, Puneet.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you. So I'm saying we already, proposed this definition, right? The enums, I think 2 weeks back. If we get some inputs from the group right here, so we can actually, incorporate those inputs and take that to config team, right? So I think we require the inputs from the team here itself so that we can take it forward now.
Okay. I will send you an update. It's fine by me, but I think we can proceed. So let's do that. I'm gonna come back to you, Puneet, in a second. So, and to finish up Kwan's question, the other driver, that if you take a look at this one here, what the difference is that I'm sending down there is a translation method that I have here, which says convert to ONOS modulation, because so I have a modulation scheme in ONOS. I was reusing what Puneet and the Sterlite folks put in, but the name is not exactly the modulation format. The modulation scheme is not exactly what ONOS wants, so I have to convert it into their string basically, and it's also QPSK and 16 QAM, so I'm converting it like that. So here it could be like you guys have whatever you want in there for Nokia, and it can go to the Nokia stuff. The rest of it is standard. Do you see what I mean?
I see. I got it.
That is the current state. Okay.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, we will try to adapt. Our driver with the extension for the.
Yeah, what you can do is take this one for testing. Take this one and just change that method that I showed you here. If that, and with your particular things, and if that is the case, we might want to extract this and have possibility to override this method, have some abstract class, like refactor it a little bit. This had to go in quick, so it's not really refactored, but we can do it.
Okay, I got it. Thanks.
So that's the update on the few things that we changed. It's pretty good stuff, I think. So what needs to happen next? At the moment, there is a little bit of disalignment between the Cassini simulator that we're using for testing and this new version and the standard version of OpenConfig and the standard version of the modulation and the power, because the simulator does not support them. So we need to update the simulator to support this stuff in order for testing without any real physical device. That's one thing we need to do. The other one is that at the moment in the UI, these values are directly fetched every time from the device. That is something that I need to I'd like to avoid, because it's not a fast and lean implementation. It puts a lot of stress on the device, and it's basically a pass-through through ONOS. What I would do is that we would reuse some store that is put in place in the app that has the UI to include those things. So those are these 28029 and 8030. There's also a need for wavelength CLI, which is partially done by a DIB. Which is partially done by a DIB because it's but it needs the OCH signal type, so it doesn't allow you to specify a gigahertz or terahertz number. So that's an addition that I would like to make. Then there's the work on the OSNR that the Sterlite is going on, and I'll let you guys comment on that later. And also the Sterlite folks are augmenting the modulation OpenConfig behaviors because they're uploading a new patch to fix a few things that is there. So yeah, that's about it. And there's a few other testing that's happening Alessio and other stuff. On that note, I would like to give the discussion to Puneet to give us an update on the OSNR and the modulation yang changes, and I'll talk about this later.
Yeah, hi, Andrea. This is Chetan from Satellite.
Hello.
Yeah, so for OSNR, in the modulation driver itself, we have added a like the code for fetching the OSNR value.
Okay. And that is based
So
on
it is
the
already
extension that you made, right?
yeah, please pardon.
And that fetching of the OSNR value is based on the extension that you made to the OpenConfig models.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, based on the extension of the OpenConfig model.
Okay. Okay.
And one more item that you talked about, I did not get like what is expected from our side.
I was wondering if that OSNR can be also exposed very much like modulation, enabling a get of the OSNR value through CLI, for example.
As a separate domain, right?
Yeah, it cannot really be configured because it's a state value because it's computed out of the other types like power, like wave, like the modulation and stuff like that. But if we could retrieve it via CLI, via REST API, that could be good. So we can show it because I know it's useful for calculation in the modulation driver that you guys have, but it would be also good to have it into can be retrieved for general purpose knowledge of the value itself.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. And then you guys also have an augmentation of the modulation patch to fix some of the comments that we discussed. How is that progressing?
Yes. So we have delivered that patch, I guess.
Or is it up on Gerrit?
Yes, we have already submitted. Like now, the Jenkins build is passing, so that patch is already available. It would be from Rohit, I believe. It would not be from my side. Rohit, if you are, yeah, that's fine.
Is it this one?
Yes, so it is already merged, I believe. Yeah.
Yes. So there were a few comments that we made in there. That
we might have taken care of it. I'll recheck, but I think we have taken care of that.
Okay, yeah,
I think it is already done. So
okay, great, perfect.
It's already done.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'll take a look at the code. There might be some hardening and some, let's say, common things that we do across the drivers that we can put together, but we can discuss this offline. So okay, great. That's very good.
If you can send, if you have offline, then we can incorporate that as well.
Okay, perfect. And as soon as you have any update on the OSNR, just please send it out so we can take a look at it and review
it. Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, the remaining bit is the ZT driver for the transponder in ONOS. This is phase 1.0 driver. It's under Gerrit. You can find it as a patch here. This is there's been a back and forth between me and the folks from ZT. And we can go over this. I know it's been used and tested and it's working within the lab Telefonica, so that's pretty good. And I plan to use it in the ONF Connect demo just to showcase that we have more capabilities. But if you guys have any comments on this, just please go there and put them in the patch. The one thing that is pretty interesting and we might want to reuse in future for future elements and see if that is possible is the port statistic discovery that is done through OpenConfig. So basically what this does is that for an interface, it finds out the packets, the errors, and stuff like that. It's based counter-based. So it does find out these details from OpenConfig models. I believe there is no ZTE specific stuff in this class. There might be like this method here, but from an OpenConfig point of view, there is really nothing specific of ZTE here. So I might take it, extend it, and try it out on some other devices that support it. That's also a pretty good contribution. I plan to go ahead and back and forth with the ZTE folks a little bit more and then merge these. So it's pretty good to have. A few other updates I have is that on the ONF Connect demo, the stuff is progressing. I had a call with the folks from ADVA and from Telefonica. The demo is going very well. Stefan, do you want to give us an update on that?
I mean, basically, our focus is on the open line system, where we then integrate via the domain controller and TAPI into orchestration systems. We also done some initial work on our open terminals with the open config. But as I said, I mean, our key focus will be the open line system. And then in terms of a disaggregated scenario, I think third-party open terminals like the Cassini or SETI or Soya and maybe others, would be the scenario which will make sense.
Okay, yeah. And the plan is to use a few others, the Cassini ones, the ZTE ones, or possibly the ADVA one, and maybe the Siena transponder. We're also in discussion with the Nokia people. I know they have two, but there's a little bit of back and forth there. Okay, and the demo, yes, will be a setup of an end-to-end connectivity and will show resiliency in terms of path and the ONOS controller going up and down. And it will also show the power, the modulation, and the other stuff that we discussed before on the transponders that do support it. Okay. I don't personally have any update on the TAPI status. I think that it has been like this since 2 weeks. I think there's really no major update. 2.2 has been released and 2.1.2 has been released and available. So I don't think there is any major update, and I don't think that currently the ODTN use case team has any suggestion for the TAPI group. So I think we're pretty good on the version that they released with 2.2. Is there any question on that? No, perfect. Something I forgot about regarding the ONF Connect demo. We will be sharing our booth with the Telecom Infra project due to their contributions in terms of hardware and software to the Cassini device, which we will have at the booth. And I think it's a powerful showcase of the collaboration that's going on. So that's all I had on my side. Is there any other update that you guys wanted to discuss? No? Okay. If you guys have any comments and thoughts on the patches after you take a look at them, you can just find them on Gerrit. Most of the code is merged, so if you guys try it out, test it out, see if your device supports it, whatever you guys do, just feel free to comment. I'll make a stab at creating a few other Jira stories for refactoring most of the commonalities in the drivers that we have. but please feel free to pick up any of the ones that I discussed today. I'll make sure to update the documentation. I'll make sure to update the documentation with the UI changes that we made in order for it to show properly. But yeah, I think that's about it. Any other comments or thoughts?
Andrea, this is Puneet.
Hi, Puneet.
Do you have any plan for any ODTN meeting prior to that ONF Connect, maybe on 9th or 8th?
Any plan for what? Sorry?
ODTN meeting, maybe a meeting prior to that ONF Connect. Maybe we can actually sync up and plan it, like what is the roadmap and plans?
Oh, that's a very good point. I did not really thought of that. I can definitely do that. I might send out a poll on what is the best time for everybody to sync up. It could either be maybe Monday or Tuesday before the conference. I know Tuesday is going to be somewhat tight because we're going to have to move the hardware, but let's see. I'll send out a poll. That's a good point, Puneet. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thanks.
Yes. Yeah, I'll do that right away and see what's everybody availability to see. Maybe Tuesday morning we could do that before the conference. I'll send everybody a note on that to see whoever's going to be present physically and whoever we can meet personally. It's also a great opportunity to sync up in person. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay. Then if not, thanks everybody for joining the call today. I'll upload the recording. Encourage everybody to take a look at the patches and continue the great work. I'll also try and have a first draft of the demo slides next week so I can share them with the group. If not the next one, if not next week, the one after. Starting from next week, I'm going to be physically based not in Europe but in the United States. So if anybody on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean wants to meet in person before the conference for a one-to-one, just drop me a note and I'll be happy to sync up with you. Okay? Thanks, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Goodbye. Bye-bye.